The story I'm about to relate to you is true. All you got to do is punch in your search engine President Obama behind White House leaks, and you will see rows and rows of stories on this subject. But you would never realize that because the mainstream media will not air the truth to you. They prefer to cast the blame on General Flynn, who in reality did nothing wrong. Many presidents before him have talked to foreign governments before they took office in order to get all their ducks in a row. In fact, one of the most famous one was Ronald Reagan. If you remember, the day he took office, the Iranians released all the hostages. Why? Because a Trump administration official spoke to the Iranians and said if they didn't do so, let's just say all hell was going to come down upon them. And that turned out to be one of the most historical events in our nation's history, and a proud one at that. But let's get back to the story. I'm going to show you a perfect example of how the mainstream media is trying to direct your attention away from the truth and put all the blame on Michael Flynn, thinking we are idiots. Let's start the video.
It's also up to the Republicans, Mika, on Capitol Hill to get to the bottom of this and to begin investigating. And how disheartening it was to see several people on the Hill and some editorial writers say this isn't about the Russian connections. This is about leaks. And saying, boy, what does it say? Have we become a national security state who spies on its own people?
You know what it says, Joe? It says we have then become a police state, and you're sitting there endorsing it. I'll tell you what, I've got a part of an article I want to read to you. Listen to this. However, multiple sources closely involved in the situation pointed to a larger, more secretive campaign aimed at discrediting Flynn and undermining the Trump White House. It's undeniable that the campaign to discredit Flynn was well underway before Inauguration Day, and with a very troublesome and politicized series of leaks designed to undermine him, said one veteran national security advisor with close ties to the White House team. This pattern reminds me of the lead up to the Iran deal and probably features the same cast of characters. The Free Beacon first reported in January that, until its final days in office, the Obama administration hosted several pro-Iran voices who were critical in helping to mislead the American public about the terms of the nuclear agreement. This included a former Iranian government official and the head of the National Iranian American Council, or NIAC, which has been accused of serving as Iran's mouthpiece in Washington, D.C. Since then, top members of the Obama administration's national security team have launched a communications infrastructure after they left the White House, and they have told reporters they are using that infrastructure to undermine Trump's foreign legacy. It's actually Ben Rhodes, NIAC, and the Iranian mullahs who are celebrating today, said one veteran foreign policy advisor who is close to Flynn in the White House. They know that the number one target is Iran, and they all knew their little sacred agreement with Iran was going to go off the books. So they got rid of Flynn before any of the secret agreements even surfaced. Flynn had been preparing to publicize many of the details about the nuclear deal that had been intentionally hidden by the Obama administration as part of its effort to garner support for the deal, these sources said. Flynn is now gone before anybody can see what happened with these secret agreements, said the second insider close to Flynn and the White House. If you ask me, that is the real story the media should be telling us about.
That actually is so separated from the context of what has happened over the past 18 months, where you have people like Paul Manafort with Russian connections running the campaign for Donald Trump. We have information, and the intel community has had information of connections between the Russians and members of Donald Trump's campaign at the very same time that the Russians are trying to fix the United States of America's election for President of the United States.
Yeah.
He is talking about the New York Times article that came out this morning. But one other thing he conveniently left out is in that Times article, they concluded that the Donald Trump campaign and the Russian government never had any collusion in order to fix this election. A report from American intelligence agencies that was made public in January concluded that the Russian government had intervened in the election in part to help Mr. Trump, but did not address whether any members of the Trump campaign had participated in the effort. And by the details leaked in this article, it is conclusive. The answer is no.
Republicans and editorial writers cannot be so stupid as to pretend that they just picked on poor Michael Flynn out of nowhere.
No.
I got news for you, Joe. By the evidence I just presented, that's exactly what happened. Try doing your job.